Welcome to Max Premieres. There are months when the movie calendar feels like someone deliberately crammed everything in at once. Monsters, revenge, sci-fi, nostalgia, superheroes. Today I'm bringing you 15 upcoming films that should genuinely be on your radar, ranked from least to most interesting, based on my personal and honest take. Some are already out, others are landing in the coming months. If you find that useful, it would help me a lot if you left a like and subscribed. Thanks so much for your support. Number 14, Refuge. Four old friends reunite for a fishing weekend, the kind of trip that sounds simple on paper, planned around the idea of fixing a fractured friendship and enjoying some time in nature. But the moment a child goes missing nearby and one of the group is accused by a desperate father, what was meant to be a low-key reunion turns into something very different and very dangerous. The interesting thing about this premise is that it bets on paranoia over cheap scares. Trust collapses piece by piece, secrets surface, accusations fly from every direction, and nobody quite knows who to believe anymore. Reviews on Rotten Tomatoes describe it as a film better than it has any right to be tense and emotionally honest in its best moments. It's not perfect. The screenplay has pacing issues, and some critics note there's too much shouting relative to the actual substance. But as a low-budget paranoia thriller, it works with more solidity than expected. Number 13, Straight Shot. If you're looking for pure classic-style action, and I mean that in the best possible way, this premise has everything you need for a good night in front of the screen. A past his prime bodyguard, his ex-fiancée trapped inside an experimental coffin somewhere in a skyscraper full of mercenaries, and a clock that doesn't stop. One building, one objective, an entire army in between. David A.R. White, Dolph Lundgren, and Tyrese Gibson lead a cast that knows exactly what kind of movie it's in from the very start. The setup recalls that action subgenre where every floor of the building becomes a brand new battlefield. What adds some texture beyond the spectacle is the emotional hook. It's not just about saving someone, but about saving someone he once loved. This is direct, straight-to-the-point action cinema made for audiences who enjoy the formula when it's properly executed. Don't expect narrative surprises because there simply aren't any. Number 12, KRAKEN. Norway already proved with Troll that it can make monster cinema on a tight budget with plenty of genuine imagination. KRAKEN seemed built on the same logic: a fjord, a marine biologist arriving to investigate strange incidents at a fish farm, and something that has been sleeping in the dark water for centuries. The premise works on paper, and the landscape is absolutely spectacular. The budget was around 5 million euros. The central problem is that the film simply doesn't work the way it should on screen. The creature is barely visible, backgrounds stay permanently out of focus, and the screenplay's internal logic collapses under the first serious question you ask it. Nordisk Film openly invested in AI-assisted production, and multiple analyses suggest that shows clearly for the attentive viewer. Compared to Troll, which was a genuine surprise in its time, KRAKEN is a disappointment without nuance. Watchable for fans who can forgive a low budget. As a spiritual successor to the film that put Norwegian monster cinema on the map, it doesn't come close. Number 11, Neglected. Detective Shaw's last day on the job before retirement becomes the most brutal of his professional and personal life. A serial killer walks into the precinct and announces that he's buried Shaw's son alive somewhere unknown. He'll only give the location if Shaw solves 3 cold case murders before the oxygen runs out underground. Josh Duhamel plays Shaw with a blend of exhaustion, desperation, and determination that works and keeps the film standing when the screenplay falters. Dylan Sprouse as the killer brings an unpredictable presence that sustains the tension effectively throughout. The premise builds genuine urgency from minute 1, and the film understands it cannot stray from that ticking clock. Critics noted that some twists become predictable too early, and that supporting characters are underdeveloped for the genre. But as a low-budget thriller with a clear, well-executed concept, it delivers its purpose without unnecessary delay. Worth a look if the genre appeals to you. Number 10, The Gentleman. Ron Perlman plays Teo, a retired elite soldier who has quietly settled into a solitary life in Spain. His days are slow, repetitive, almost empty, until one brutal moment changes everything. Olga, a woman he met regularly just to talk and escape his isolation, is murdered, and something inside him completely breaks. From that point on, he becomes a full-scale hunt. Teo dusts off the lethal skills he once buried and begins tracking down every person responsible. What makes this story more interesting than a conventional revenge thriller is that he isn't the only one hunting in that territory. Perlman has the physical presence and gravity needed for the character to work without sliding into the cliché of the classic action hero. The trailer handles the tone well, a man who has nothing left to lose and knows exactly what he's doing with every step. This is the kind of film for audiences who enjoy European revenge thrillers with character and measured pacing rather than pure spectacle. Number 9. Redux. Redux. A grieving mother has been doing the same thing for too long, traveling from universe to universe, hunting down a version of her daughter's killer and eliminating him once and for all. Redux. Redux's premise is as simple as it is effective. The multiverses aren't radically different worlds, but nearly identical ones, and in every single one the killer exists and is still alive. In one of those universes, she encounters a runaway teenager who is about to become the next victim, and saving her begins to transform a pure revenge mission into something far more complicated. Directors Kevin and Matthew McManus spent 10 years building a film that uses the multiverse concept in a genuinely personal way, without massive visual effects or unnecessary paradoxes. Michaela McManus carries the full weight of the film with a physically and emotionally intense performance throughout. The film holds a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes based on real reviews. For a Saban Films low-budget production, that number says absolutely everything about the quality you can expect. Number 8. Dirty Hands. Richie and Danny Denton just wanted to run a routine drug exchange in Chicago one more night like 100 before it. Nothing complicated on paper. The kind of operation that goes right 100 times before the one night, it goes catastrophically wrong without warning or signal. And that night goes wrong from the very first minute. A powerful crime boss's son ends up dead, and the two brothers find themselves trapped between rival gangs, unexpected betrayals, and an entire city that seems to want them buried before dawn without any consideration. The film's promise lies in the constant pressure of a single night where every minute counts and where the brothers must navigate gang territories, shifting loyalties, and people who would sell them out in an instant to save themselves first. Survival chaos compressed into a few hours works very well as a narrative structure. The trailer shows a film that understands the real horror here isn't genre monsters, but the impossible circumstances created by human nature itself. Number 7. Wildcat. Ada was the leader of a special operations unit until she walked away to raise her daughter in peace. When her daughter is kidnapped because her brother owes money to London's most dangerous criminal organization, Ada reactivates her team for a mission they never planned to run again. Kate Beckinsale carries the action weight, and Louis Tan brings presence as the ex-partner and ex-lover pulled back into active service. Charles Dance appears as the crime lord they need to rob to pay the ransom. The film attempts the Guy Ritchie-style fast pace, Cockney slang, dark humor, and unrestrained violence. The problem is that most reviews are brutally negative. Well-cast talent badly wasted, a confusing screenplay, and action sequences that disappoint right at the moments that matter most. What could have been a solid revenge mother thriller ends up being a film that wants to be more than its budget allows it to execute, fun in stretches, frustrating as a whole. Number 6. Killer Whale. An orca that has spent 22 years in a Thai marine theme park is released into the open ocean confused, angry, and unable to distinguish the open water from the walls of its former tank. Maddie, a young cellist recovering from a trauma that cost her both her hearing and her career, travels with her best friend to that same tropical destination for a vacation. What follows is a marine survival thriller where both women are stranded on a small rock while the orca circles them relentlessly. The film has a genuinely interesting idea at its center. Maddie empathizes with the creature trying to kill her because both are victims of the same system that trapped them and left them with no real options. But the execution never matches the original concept at any point. The green screen effect is visible in many scenes. The orca appears and disappears according to what the screenplay needs, and the tension never builds the way it should. Virginia Gardner does what she can with the material available. Better versions of this same idea exist. Number 5. Masters of the Universe. After years of development, hell, and a studio shift from Netflix to Amazon MGM, Masters of the Universe finally arrives in theaters on June 5th. Director Travis Knight, who made Bumblebee, brings Eternia into the present with Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam, a man who has lived on Earth without knowing he is the heir to a planet devastated under Skeletor's control. Jared Leto plays the villain, Idris Elba plays Man-at-Arms, and Camila Mendes plays Tila in a cast that visually has every ingredient for success. The CinemaCon trailer generated genuine excitement. The budget is estimated at $200 million, and the studio is betting He-Man can be the next big name in summer family entertainment. The actual results won't be known until June, but the creative team has a real track record, and the visual ingredients are clearly in place. The one question nobody can confidently answer yet is whether Jared Leto can carry the weight that Skeletor requires. Number 4. Couples Weekend. Two couples head to a cabin together to ring in the New Year's snow outside. Drinks inside, carefully planned romance, and nothing that could possibly go wrong for anyone in the group on the surface. But things unravel fast when a strange series of events forces the truth into the open all at once, with no warning for anyone. After witnessing betrayals nobody expected and drinking a mysterious cocktail that strips every inhibition from the group, everyone starts revealing secrets that clearly should have stayed buried under the snow forever. What makes this premise entertaining is how quickly pressure accumulates on each character, a perfectly planned romantic getaway that becomes total and irreversible emotional chaos for everyone. Jealousy, accusations, hidden affairs, all of it locked inside a snow-blocked cabin that nobody can escape from by any means. Although it's billed as a comedy, it feels more like the kind of relationship film where everything explodes slowly and spectacularly in the most awkward and hilarious ways imaginable. Number 3. WONDERMAN. Simon Williams has spent his entire life trying to make it as an actor, with little success to show for it. What he doesn't realize is that he also possesses extraordinary superhuman abilities, powers he has consistently ignored because acting has always been his top priority. When a mysterious government agent sees real potential in that unlikely combination, Simon becomes the most unexpected superpowered espionage partner the Marvel Cinematic Universe has produced so far. Ben Kingsley returns as Trevor Slattery in this superhero comedy directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, the filmmaker behind Shang-Chi, ensuring a balance of humor and action without sacrificing either element that makes the genre work. Within the MCU, character-driven comedies about heroes who barely understand their own powers have performed far better than many expected, as seen with She-Hulk. If WONDERMAN delivers the same level of self-awareness and willingness to poke fun at the genre while fully embracing it, it could become one of the most entertaining and surprising series of the year on Disney+. Number 2. The Devil Wears Prada 2. 20 years after the original, Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci return to the streets of New York City and the offices of Runway magazine. Miranda Priestley now faces a very different kind of enemy, the collapse of print publishing in an increasingly digital world. Andy Sachs comes back, not as an overwhelmed assistant, but as an established editor pulled back into Miranda's orbit, whether she wants to be there or not. And then there's Emily, who now runs a powerful luxury brand with influence of her own. What makes the premise genuinely interesting is that the dynamic has completely changed. It's no longer boss against assistant, but power against power on every front. The May 1st opening weekend grossed $233 million worldwide. When all 4 actresses share the screen, the film delivers the energy that fans of the original had been waiting for. It's not major art, but it's exactly what the moment called for. Number 1. Daredevil. Born Again, Season 2. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio have spent 2 seasons proving that Daredevil can genuinely work within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Season 2 of Born Again is the definitive proof. Wilson Fisk as a corrupt mayor who has turned an entire city into his political tool, and Matt Murdock building a resistance from the shadows with allies that include Jessica Jones back on screen for the first time in years. The tone is darker than most Marvel content, closer to a noir-style power struggle than a classic hero story, and that is exactly the right call for this particular character. 8 weekly episodes that force each installment to justify its own existence independently. Kristen Ritter delivers what audiences had been waiting for since her own series was canceled. And the explicit connection to the Punisher special and the Spider-Man Brand New Day film turns this season into something that matters inside a much larger storytelling map within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that wraps up this selection. There's a lot coming in the next few months, and the variety you just saw reflects that. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. See you soon. Thanks for watching.